survive. I was an advocate against illegal drugs because why would a healthy person use illegal drugs? This was in the 60s. When I had to take all these legal drugs, morphine, Quaalude, Valium, butazol and alpha, Lyrosol, you name it, I took it. Went to college in 71, into Miami to school, from Virginia, and I'm from Virginia, by the way. That's important. I think Virginia and New Hampshire are very similar in aspects. I mean, your motto is live free or die. When I discovered medical cannabis was the best medicine for me, I decided I wasn't a criminal, I was a patient. The federal government outlawed it, and the federal government should be the one to supply it. So I took on the federal government. And one of the aspects I used in my arguing about it is Patrick Henry. Give me liberty, give me death. So Virginia and New Hampshire is very similar. It took me 10 years of educating the federal government, but finally in 1982, with the help of University of Virginia Law School, with the help of my state, with the governor, with the head of the crime commission, the head of the state police, all helping me. Because as they said, we're not here to harm patients, we're here to stop crime. And there's a difference between marijuana and medical cannabis. So I was able to have hearings before FDA, and in 1982 I won. I became the second person in the United States that the United States federal government grows medical cannabis for me and supplies me on a daily basis. Now, with a show of hands, real quick, how many of y'all pay federal taxes? Well, I want to thank each and every one of you for paying for my medicine for almost 30 years. I appreciate it. I use 10 to 12 cannabis cigarettes per day. I use no other medications. I use no morphine, nothing at all. I haven't for over 22 years. And because I have the right medicine, I get no euphoric effect. As a living, I'm a stockbroker in Fort Lauderdale. I handle a lot of money on a daily basis. On Saturdays, I teach at an organization called Shake a Leg in Miami, Coconut Grove. We teach disabled, mentally, physically, economically challenged children and adults how to sail adaptive sailboats. We have chairs built in the boat, and we take paraplegics, quadriplegics, and they sail the boat. It's very rewarding. I'm able to do all this because I have the right medicine. Now, when you say the feds are the ones that control this, yeah, the feds are the ones that control this. And I hate these state laws. I think what y'all are doing is ridiculous. Okay? This is federal policy. It should be federal law. The feds have had their opportunity, and they failed. In 1986, there were hearings ordered by courts that FDA held for Judge Francis Young, their own law review judge. They held 2 years worth of hearings, and at the end of 2 years, he stated that it was one of those benign substances known to mankind, and it should be made a medicine. The feds didn't care. And that's the problem. The feds don't care. So in 1996, individual states started passing their own laws. And while I'm against these individual laws, I applaud what they're doing. It's a shame they have to do it, but you do. Because the feds are not going to do anything. They're controlled by lobby organizations, by the pharmaceutical lobby, by the lumber lobby, by the petrochemical lobby. Because again, cannabis, hemp, same product. One's medical, one's industrial. Okay, so therefore, if medical marijuana became available tomorrow, nationwide, I'd be on the phone to my clients saying, sell your drug stocks, because people wouldn't need the drugs. That's why the pharmaceutical industry is against it. There are 80% of the population is in favor of medical cannabis. Normally, when 80% of a population is in favor of something, the politicians listen, because they listen to people. They're supposed to. Well, guess what? They don't on this subject. Okay, if tomorrow medical cannabis became available in this country, the 80% of the population that's in favor of it would gain nothing monetarily, not a dime. But what about the 20% that's against us? They would lose a fortune. That's the reason why we don't have a law. So therefore, we need each and every state to say to the federal government, we're tired of arresting our sick patients. We're tired of wasting money arresting people that are patients that should not be arrested because of some weed that the federal government's been growing since 1968 on the campus of University of Mississippi in Oxford, Mississippi. They grow the cannabis there. They ship it to Raleigh, North Carolina, Raleigh Research Triangle. They put it in cigarette form. Here it is. 300 cigarettes per tin can. They ship it to a pharmacy. For me, it's the University of Miami, Bascom Palmer. They ship it to there. And every 25 days, I go down there and I pick up a tin can of cannabis. 300 cigarettes, 9 ounces, or 7 ounces, and I go through 9 ounces a month. Now, anybody else in this country that has this is breaking federal law, and they can be arrested. I and 3 other people are the only 4 people in the United States that cannot be touched. We're not breaking any federal law. So what you're doing is you're going to pass a state law that's still going to be going against federal government. That's okay, because the feds aren't going to come in and bust you. If they do, then there's avenues for that. But what your message you're sending by passing a law is saying, hey, to the feds, we've waited. You're not doing anything to help our patients. So we're going to do something ourselves. So this is what's important, to be able to put medicine in the hands of physicians. Your doctors go to school for 12 years in this state. Your state allows them to become physicians. You allow them to prescribe whatever they want to prescribe, and that's their right. If there's a problem with that, the medical board comes in, or law enforcement. Well, that's the same with this. If a physician recommends medical cannabis for a patient under your new state law, then that's their job. Let them do their job. Okay? I'm a member of an organization called Patients at a Time. We're the only organization in the United States, the only organization that is sanctioned by the American Medical Association, the largest physician organization in the country. We're sanctioned by them to teach doctors about medical cannabis, to where they come to our conference every 2 years, or go to our website and download our previous conference, and they get continuing education credit. Well, why would they get continuing education credit if it's not a medicine? Because everybody who's against us says, well, it's not a medicine. Well, just ask them where they got their medical degree from. Because the American Medical Association sanctions us to teach them. And also the American Nurses Association. Gee, the largest nursing organization in the United States. Well, if it's not a medicine, why would they want nurses to learn about it? They sanction Patients at a Time to teach nurses, to where they get continuing education credit. Well, why would they, if it's not a medicine? Gee, why are they wasting their time? And what about the Veterans Administration? Good organization, veterans. Do we care about our veterans in this country? I like to think we do. Well, guess what, folks? If you don't have a law in your books, go to every politician in this state and ask them straight up, why are you against our veterans? Why are you against our veterans? And what's a politician going to say? Hey, I'm not against veterans. They can't be against veterans. Well, guess what? You are against veterans until you pass a law like what y'all are trying to do in this state. Because the VA has stated this through our organization's education, that if you're a veteran and you've been from Afghanistan or whatever, and you've had a leg blown off or whatever, and you're taking opiates for pain, and you go to a VA hospital, and they do a blood test or a urinalysis on you, and it shows metabolites of cannabis in your system, well, guess what? The VA's instructed their doctors to cease treating veterans, unless you're in a state that allows it. If you're in a state that has a medical marijuana law, then you're fine. The veteran can be treated. No problem if they test positive for cannabis. But if you're in a state such as New Hampshire, such as my home state of Virginia, my adopted state of Florida, that veteran cannot be treated because there is no law in the books allowing a physician to treat a veteran for this. So again, I repeat, until you pass a law, until it's passed and the governor signs the law, ask your governor, Governor, why are you against our veterans? Because you are until you pass a law. So what I'm here to do today is to try to show you that it's not the hysteria that people make it out to be. It's a very benign substance. Now, unlike most people, I get no euphoric effect. I get no high. I never have. We've discovered, scientists have discovered that every person, every animal has an endocannabinoid system throughout their body. We produce natural cannabis in our body. Everybody does. And we need the substance. Before it was outlawed in 1937, cannabis was a normal part of our diet. The medicines were made of it, our foods had it in there. In 1937, they outlawed it. They outlawed it for a political reason. The people that were in charge were worried about blacks and Mexicans proliferating and taking over the country for voting rights. So how can we keep them from happening? They said, well, in 1937, they're the only people that smoke marijuana. And a few jazz musicians. Other than that, nobody smokes marijuana. If we outlaw marijuana, we can take away their voting rights. Well, that was what was brought up. And you know, the people in charge then of the government was people like DuPont. Well, he just come out with rayon and nylon. He thought, well, gee, if we can outlaw marijuana, we can outlaw hemp. And hemp's my biggest competition. If we outlaw hemp, then people will buy, you know, my petrochemicals, nylon, rayon. Then you had Hearst, who owned all the major newspapers, owned all kinds of forest land through Mexico, United States, all over the world. He said, gee, if we could outlaw marijuana, we could outlaw hemp, and people would have to use my lumber for paper. So you have the lobby organizations for that. You have the cotton industry that didn't want to see hemp. So all these organizations were against marijuana because of their own political reasons or their own financial reasons. Today it's outlawed. We've got 17 states that have passed laws in this country. Over a third of the nation now, people are protecting their state. I want to see New Hampshire become the 18th state. I want to see their citizens not have to worry about being arrested because, like him, he's got MS. Okay, well to me, he kind of looks like a law-abiding citizen, you know? But maybe I should say this, you know? Maybe I should say, you know something? He's breaking your state law. He should be arrested. He should be put behind bars, and we would sleep better at night knowing he's behind bars because he's breaking your state law. I don't know. Look at him. Would we sleep better at night knowing he's behind bars? I don't know. He doesn't look that bad to me. Okay, so therefore, we need to change the law. And what you all have done is try to change the law. Your House has passed it. Your Senate's passed it. Your governor, for whatever reason, doesn't want to vote on it, doesn't want to pass it. Now, the reason I've been given is because his wife, who's a pediatrician, doesn't think it's necessary, doesn't think it's needed. We know no medicine is going to be approved by 100% of any physicians. Now, she's a pediatrician, retired pediatrician. My great-uncle, Dr. Shipley Glick, was head of pediatrics at Johns Hopkins. The head. He taught pediatrics. He was in charge. My regular uncle, Dr. Sigmund Stein from New London, Connecticut, he taught pediatrics at Yale. Pretty good guy. They were both in favor of me taking on the federal government, and they were pediatricians. So not every doctor is going to agree on every medicine. But what doctors got to realize is there's organizations such as the AMA that says doctors need to learn about this. So to your governor, what I want to say to him is be open-minded. You allow physicians to go to school for 12 years. You allow them to become doctors in your state. You allow them to prescribe OxyContin or other medicines. And if they do something wrong, that's what the medical board's for. And if a patient does something wrong, that's what the police are for. But the police should not be making medical decisions. Let your doctors do that. So that's why it's so important why I come up here, because there's only 4 of us in the country that can stand up and talk about it. Doctors, it's very difficult for them to talk about medical cannabis. Why? Because DEA comes in on them and says, hey, doctor, we need to look at every prescription you've written for the last 2 years. It's like an IRS lockup. So they're scared to talk about it. Patients, well, he's potentially be arrested. If he right now had cannabis on him, then if a police officer in the room that says that gentleman over there, he could actually go and arrest him. But guess what? This police officer cannot arrest me. I'm under federal law. Federal law supersedes state law. So I'm one of the few people in the country that can stand up and say, hey, this is a medicine. This works. I'm living proof. I've been receiving this for over 29 years. I've been using medical cannabis, 10 to 12 cannabis cigarettes per day, for 41 years. So when the federal government says it's not a medicine, I beg to differ. Okay? That's why I'm here. I'm here to say that, you know, people can talk about how bad it is. People can talk about how good it is. I can legally stand up and say, I can tell you exactly how good it is, because I've used it. So I'm hoping that your governor thinks about what he's doing and realizes that, you know something, he's a governor. Okay, the people have spoken. The House has passed it, the Senate's passed it. People have spoken. He's not an expert on the subject. His wife's a physician. God bless her. We need physicians. Okay? But what we have to realize is that as a governor, he is not a physician. Okay? He did not get a medical degree at any university. His wife did, but his wife is a physician. And the American College of Physicians, the AMA, American Medical Association, the American Nurses Association, the Veterans Administration, they all say it's a medicine. So no matter what she feels, I think she has to realize that as a physician, medicine needs to be put in the hands of physicians. So therefore, it's important that the state of New Hampshire join over 1/3 of the country and take the crime away from their patients. So they don't have to waste taxpayers' money arresting sick people, and they can put medicine in the hands of physicians, which is where it should be, you know, not in the policeman's hands. I mean, right now, if I go outside to my car, and the car that my suitcase is in is broken into, I'm not going to call my doctor. I'm going to call the police. Vice versa, if I get sick tomorrow, I'm not going to call the police. I'm going to call my doctor. So put medicine back in the hands of physicians. Let them be the ones to decide. And if they abuse it, if they do something wrong, that's what laws are for. That's why the medical community has a medical board. That's why the police have their right to do what they want to do. And I'm hoping by putting medicine in the hands of physicians,